How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Chaos Head Noah. In the last episode, we jumped into Senna's route. We're almost done with all these character routes, and this one seems a little interesting. We're jumping right into the fray, quite literally, from the get-go in this route. Senna has dragged us over to Nozomi HQ, and, well, we were about to avoid a trap, but then Takumi was like, no, let's go right into it. And yeah, now we're trapped. Again. Hopefully not for too long. Around 28 hours had passed since we'd first gotten locked in here. During that time, I had dozed off and lost consciousness countless times. I had been overwhelmed by a surge of uncontrollable emotions with depression, mania, and other similar feelings, leaving me mentally exhausted. Senna and I hadn't said a single word to each other the entire time. She'd pretty much been completely and entirely useless ever since we'd gotten locked up, really. The final ray of hope was the PC. Aside from the ones that had showed the detestable faces of the Diet member and that religion's founder, there were a ton of other monitors decorating the room. And every one of them was connected to a single PC. Since the PC was connected to the internet, I tried posting a bunch of SOS messages on various boards, but it had all been in vain. I hadn't been able to post anything at all. The PC could download just fine, but uploading was completely throttled. Any attempts at sending chat messages or emails were quickly snuffed out. Under the orders of those two old guys, someone, somewhere, had to have been watching us. But why were they letting us access any information at all? I would soon learn the answer to that question. A few hours after starting to gather info online, I checked the articles tab of Taboo on a whim. Riot breaks out at Shibuya's Scramble Crossing. An article with that title caught my eye. And immediately after that, it happened. Oh my gosh, the third melt, let's go! It all began with a tremor from below. The floor, no, the very building itself started to shake violently. The very next moment, I was struck with a violent ringing in my ears. It was such an intensely shrill, resonant sound, my head felt like it was about to burst open. I looked at Senna, who was covering her ears in agony. And then, a thunderous roar. The entire building thrashed around violently as if the world itself was trying to make a gigantic milkshake. That's one way to describe it, I guess. Unable to stay upright anymore, I tumbled over and my back crashed against the wall. Senna was crouched down in the center of the room, curled up into a ball. And above her head, the monitor affixed to the ceiling was swaying back and forth like a pendulum. The world suddenly went into slow motion. The swaying of the monitor slowed down. With a dull sound, the aluminum pole holding the monitor snapped, and it fell down ever so slowly towards Senna. It was a feeling I had experienced once before. It was exactly like when ISA had jumped off the school roof. She was going to die. If that giant monitor fell on her head, Senna would die. I couldn't make it in time. There were roughly 5 meters between us. Besides, I didn't have the courage to risk my life to save a 3D girl anyway. Even so, a delusion flared to life inside my mind. In that delusion, I kicked off the shaking floor, bolted over to Senna, and threw my arms around her in a magnificent save. Well, did we do it? And all of that happened in an instant. In just the blink of an eye, my body teleported over to Senna, threw its arms around her, and tumbled to the floor. The sound of the monitor crashing to the ground echoed right beside my ear. Even though the room had been so dark before, my field of vision was dyed white. I think in every route that we've done, the third melt has happened. Along with the ear-splitting sound of an explosion, I was slammed with an even greater impact than before. And with that, my last thread of consciousness was severed. Yeah, I don't think, I mean, it's happened in at different moments from different locations. So we've interpreted it at different times. How long had I been out? My consciousness drifted in and out of a deep slumber. I felt a ticklish, slightly annoying tingle on the top of my nose, and upon noticing that faint, ever so lightly warm sensation, I slowly opened my eyes. That's a Senna. who is maybe getting crushed. Senna's face was only a few inches from mine. Her long hair draped over my cheeks. Her faint breaths blew right against my nose. Her eyes were closed, but her eyelashes were quivering. She must have only lost consciousness. We were really, really close. If I wanted to, I could have easily moved in and kissed her, I frantically tried to skirt away, but my body wouldn't move. That was when I finally realized what exactly had happened. Keeping my head completely still, I tried to survey my surroundings, but it was pitch black. I couldn't make anything out. It felt like a thin film had been draped over my field of vision, but there was no film, it was just a cloud of dust. We had been buried in rubble. So it wasn't that I couldn't see anything around me, it was that there weren't any gaps in the rubble at all. No matter what direction I looked, I couldn't find a single opening. We had been lodged into an extremely cramped pocket of space beneath the rubble. Whenever I tried to force my hands or legs to move, I would hear the sound of pebbles crumbling to the ground. That sound made me realize I couldn't move or do anything at all. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead. Had there been an earthquake or something? Shibuya had experienced a lot of those recently, but maybe they had all been foreshocks. If so, this could have been the biggest earthquake to hit Tokyo since the Great Kanto earthquake. Did that mean that the Nozomi building had collapsed? The terrorist attack that had happened in America several years back came to mind, bringing an intense wave of hopelessness with it. The fact that we hadn't been injured yet despite being stuck in a crevice was probably nothing more than an insane stroke of luck. Yet being the key word. The rubble was just barely holding itself together, maintaining an extremely delicate balance. I had no way of making sure, but it was definitely possible that dozens of tons of debris were piled on top of us. If I made a single wrong move, that balance would be lost, and then that massive pile of rubble would crush us in less than a second. Imagining that as my last moment, I instantly froze in fear. I didn't want to die. I couldn't handle the idea of being crushed to death in a place like this, where nobody would ever know. Hurry up and rescue me. A rescue squad, the self-defense force. I don't care who, just get me out of here. I tried straining my ears to see if I could hear any people around, but there was nothing but silence. A deafening, eerie silence. All I could hear was the sound of Senna's breathing. Damn it, sleep like a goddamn baby, why don't you? Senna was lying sprawled on top of me, our bodies tightly pressed against each other, perfectly complementing one another. Her chest, her stomach, her legs, nearly her entire body was right on top of me. She was heavy. She was heavy, and being forced to feel the softness of her arms and how slender her legs were, oh God. Naturally, I could still feel Senna's breath heating my cheek, and within it, I could smell something sweet. Perhaps because of the crunchy coons that she was always eating. Her breaths were deep and steady. They followed a distinct rhythm. And each time she breathed, I could feel her breasts faintly moving up and down directly against my body. Was this some kind of torture? An attack of this magnitude would cause all sense of reason within me to crumble in 5 minutes tops. I needed to wake her up somehow in order to avert this crisis. Wait, I'd have to wake her up? Would it be right for me to do that? I mean, if I woke her up and she saw the state that we were in, how would she react? She was the same girl who regularly scowled at everyone and everything. So even though it was an accident far beyond my control, there was no doubt in my mind that she'd label me a pervert anyway. Considering she wouldn't be thinking clearly, there was the very real possibility that she might rip out my throat. And at this distance, taking Senna's position into account, not only could she easily do that, but I would be completely defenseless against it too. Well, that was probably a bit too extreme to be realistic, but if Senna really were to wake up in a panic, she could very well end up causing the rubble to collapse on top of us, and that would be the end of it. What the hell was I supposed to do? If I could have ripped my hair out, I would have. But since I obviously couldn't do that, I resorted to banging the back of my head against the rubble. Through that, I was able to suppress my instinctual lust for Senna. Don't pay this wench any heed. I'm not, and never will be, into 3D girls. The girls I love are all 2D. Seroton, appear before me. Drive these worldly desires from my mind. I'm not into stuck-up bitches like her, so I won't give in to my lust. I mustn't give in to my lust. I mustn't give in to my lust. I mustn't give in to my lust. I can't control it anymore. Well, that didn't work. She is unconscious, isn't she? Surely no one will mind if I make ample use of her while she is. How about I taste those arrogant lips of hers, the same ones that do nothing but spew self-righteous bullshit. Yeah, sounds great. Sounds fantastic. No, I shouldn't go straight for the lips. I'm not mentally prepared for that quite yet. In that case, how about I aim for her cheek? What does the skin of a 3D girl taste like, I wonder? Does it taste like sweat, or does it perhaps taste sweet? Startled, I cut off the delusion inside my head. Senna's voice leaked out of her mouth, mixing in with her breath. It was quiet as a whisper. Her voice was so soft and frail, I would have never imagined it could come from someone who was normally so fierce and unapproachable. Her eyes were still closed. It didn't seem like she had woken up yet. She'd been talking in her sleep. I instantly felt a pang of relief, realizing she hadn't read my impure, perverted thoughts. From behind her closed eyelids, a tiny drop fell, and with a barely audible plop, it landed on my cheek. It was so very warm, and yet after only a fleeting moment, it went cold. Even Senna cried sometimes, I suppose. Now even I was starting to feel sad. Had something happened between her and her father? Oh yeah. A little worried, I timidly called out to her. With a twitch, Senna's body started to stir. Her eyes gently opened. At point-blank range, our eyes met. The drowsy Senna stared at me. Her eyes were still sleepy. She didn't seem to be fully awake yet. Don't look. It's embarrassing. It didn't take long for Senna's face to instantly turn beet red. Her eyes shot open, and her gaze raced from side to side.
これはどうなってる？動いちゃダメだ。瓦礫に押しつぶされちゃうから。瓦礫だと？
I explained to Senna how we had been buried alive by the earthquake.
そうか。確かあの時、すごい揺れが来て、上から大きなモニターが落ちてきて、お前が私を助けてくれたんだったな。
Oh yeah, that did happen, didn't it? Though I don't have a single clue as to how.
礼を言う。私が守ってやる約束だったんだがな。まさか西条に助けられるとは。もっとダメなやつだと思っていたが。
Ah, come on.
意外と男らしいじゃないか。
Yeah, we are all powerful when we want to be.
どうも。
I would have never thought I'd get complimented like that in a million years. It must have been the first time in my entire life that I'd gotten a compliment from a 3D girl. Granted, Seroton told me I was totally amazing with a star all the time, but still.
だが、この状況は良くないな。密着してるもんね。バカ、そうじゃないだろ。ここで生き埋めになってることの方だ。ごめん。まあ、密着してるのも良くない状況だが。セナのギガロマニアックスの力で何とかしてよ。できるでしょ。難しいかもしれないが、やるだけやってみよう。西条、私の目を見ろ。なんで？お前と私の間で周囲共通認識を作るためだ。
Did she just ask me to look into her eyes? Being squished together like this was already embarrassing enough, but doing that would completely smash my sense of reason that I had left. I'd go feral.
ぐずぐずするな。聞こえなかったのか？私の目を見ろ。
Urged on by Senna's voice, I reluctantly obeyed. I gazed into her eyes, and then those eyes turned directly toward me. Okay, yeah, this was really embarrassing. I'd never made eye contact with a girl for such a long time before. I never even looked people in the eye while talking to them in the first place, so I wasn't even close to comfortable with this. Making eye contact essentially meant that you were the only thing the other person was looking at. Right now, I was reflected in Senna's eyes, meaning I was the only thing she was looking at. I was monopolizing Senna's field of vision, and we were so close. Upon realizing that, I couldn't help but think that this embarrassing act was just as erotic as any H scene ever was. Ah, curse my eroge brain. Shit, I need to stop these idiotic delusions. We're making eye contact. What if Senna were to see through me? You wouldn't normally be able to read someone's thoughts just by looking into their eyes, but Kozupi could, and Senna was a gigolomaniac as well. I couldn't do this. Making eye contact with a girl was impossible.
Nishijo, 目をそらすな。
Despite her saying that, Senna's gaze wasn't pointed in the right direction either.
僕には無理。
そうか。実は私も無理だ。
This is weird.
こんな近い距離じゃ照れる。
Seeing Senna's stain beat red breathed some life back into me, actually. Where had all this moe come from? Was this girl not actually 3D? A girl this cute couldn't be 3D. Senna, you're so cute. Senna.
熱いな。
This has got to be a delusion. I mean, come on. Senna's forehead, face, and even the nape of her neck were drenched in sweat. With how close we were, I could even smell it. There was no wind or anything either. The rubble burying us had no openings. Was there even a way for air to pass through at all? If not, then we were gonna run out of oxygen pretty soon. Upon thinking that, I realized that Senna's breathing had become really heavy. The rhythmic movement of her small chest on top of me had gotten much faster than before.
まさか息苦しい。
うるさい。熱いだけだ。
Damn it, what was I supposed to take from that? Whatever, just use your gigolomaniac powers already. Shouldn't you be able to make all this debris disappear like magic?
西条、お前の力でなんとかならないか。この状況じゃ、私はうまく集中できない。
The hell are you on about? Don't tell me you're gonna start relying on me now. How exactly do you expect me to do anything about this? Materializing a flower bed beneath ISA and saving you earlier were both just coincidences. It's not like I did any of it on purpose, let alone consciously. Don't rely on me. I'm supposed to rely on you, Senna. Also, please stop breathing all this warm air on me. It's actual torture. A drop of Senna's sweat fell into my mouth. Ayo. It was salty.
勘弁して。
I was on the verge of tears. My sense of reason was this close to flying out the goddamn window. It was in my mouth. I was holding it in my mouth. Senna's juices. Why are you saying that?
おい、西条。
Senna's face was still red, but she seemed to be a lot more angry than she was before.
お前、殺すぞ。
All I did was taste your sweat. You can't kill me for that. Besides, it's your fault for letting it drop into my mouth.
この状況でよくそんな。
In the middle of speaking, Senna buried her face in my chest, unable to bear the embarrassment. There was no way she had done it intentionally, but for me, that was the strongest blow out of anything so far. Ah, so cute. Her breathing, it was passing through the gaps in my clothes and directly onto my skin. Quickly realizing what she had done, Senna pulled her head back. I couldn't have lasted just a little while longer.
やめろよ。お前、何を考えてるんだ。
She was obviously shaken. Maybe she was just used to being the tough person in the room, so someone else taking control really left her flustered.
今すぐ妄想を封印しろ、西条。お前のその
Uh-oh.
股間のあれが硬くなって私の太ももに当たってるんだ、バカが。
What? Oh yeah, I did feel something there. Senna's soft, pillowy thighs.
妄想するなと言ってるだろ。
Suddenly, I found my face on the receiving end of a brutal headbutt, and since it was a surprise attack, and a mighty strong one at that, the single strike knocked me out like a light. Well, that's one way to end a delusion. Probably the coolest way to end it.
私はもう天聖信仰会に戻る気はない。
実に惜しいね。君の才能を私は買っていたのだ。
利用していたの間違いだろう。私はもうあなたの言葉は信じない。教祖としての倉持雄大なの虚像でしかないと分かった。
信仰の救いを君も欲していただろう。
かつての私は欲していた。だが今は違う。
では何を欲しているのか。
償いのための死だ。
一度信仰に触れた者は離れることなどできない。君は離れたつもりでも信仰はいかなるものをも見捨てない。
The hell is falling apart here?
神に匹敵するものを作ってしまった私には神にすがることは許されない。
西条、起きろ、西条。
I could hear an extremely punctuous conversation between two unfamiliar men. Senna's hushed shouts jetted in between the two voices, causing me to open my eyes. Unsurprisingly, we were still squished together, enclosed in rubble with no way to escape. Oh yeah, this is some real talking that we're hearing.
信仰の救いがもたらされれば、その重みも多少は減ろう。
そう、私が選んだ。信仰の導きに従った結果として、いや、あなたの言葉に従った結果としてだ。
誰かいる。話し声が聞こえるだろう。
I nodded in response. I could hear the voices of two men, seemed like some cosmic church of the divine light randos. At the very least, it definitely wasn't a rescue party.
あいつだ。あいつが近くにいる。
Who's him? I think it might be her father that's here. I could vividly hear the sound of Senna gritting her teeth.
言葉を飾るのをやめるんだ、倉持。あなたの技術は私の心には響かない。
残念だ。もっとも君がいなくても、すでにノア2は完成している。あとは世界に向けて我らの意志を発信するのみだ。
我らのではなく、あなたの井の花構造の
いかにサードメルトの実験成功によりプロジェクトノアは試験段階を終了し
A third man joined the conversation. What the hell were they talking about? And where was it coming from? The fact that we could hear their voices meant that they had to be at least somewhat close to us. Maybe there wasn't as much rubble on top of us as we might have thought. I believe it's Senna's father and those two wackos that were helping paint this lovely picture here. Senna shifted slightly. Her hand gripped my uniform tightly. So tightly, it was like she was enduring an intense pain. Her gaze pointed downward, but she didn't make eye contact with me.
これからの世界300人による統治から2人による統治に変わるという今日がその夜明けだよ。
My field of vision was suddenly overwhelmed with light. The small pieces of rubble surrounding us began to crumble. Senna raised her head in shock. A hand reached toward us from above, peeking through a gap in the rubble.
無事か、セナ。
前。
That hand began to pull Senna up through the debris. As it did, the crevice beneath the rubble widened, and once her weight was lifted off of me, I could finally move again. Oh, this place has seen better days. I crawled out of the gap that had been made by Senna's body. It was the room in the Nozomi building, the very same room we had been trapped in.
君もノロセ同様に我らが使ってやろうと言っているのにそれを拒否するとは統治側ではなく家畜として生きるのが望みかね
Almost all of the monitors that had been hanging from the ceiling had crashed to the floor, leaving all of their screens broken. Naturally, nothing was displayed on them anymore. Even the walls and various other chunks of the room were beginning to collapse, but all in all, the room wasn't anywhere near as bad as I expected it to be. I'd assumed that we had been buried alive, but there wasn't even that much rubble. In hindsight, I could have probably escaped if I had tried to. I felt like an idiot for being too scared to move.
Senna.
Well, this will be an interesting confrontation here. Senna was facing a man I had never seen before. He was wearing a ragged coat that complemented his clouded eyes. Overall, he looked like your typical homeless man. I had the feeling I had met him somewhere before, but I couldn't remember where. Maybe we had passed each other in Shibuya at some point, and we did. He was sitting there at that park whenever we were running away from the cops. We ran into Ayase after her concert. Aside from the two of them, there was no one else there. The voices of the people who had trapped us, the member of the House of Representatives and the Cosmic Church's founder, must have come from a speaker somewhere in the room.
おや、畑野や。どうやら親子で感動の対面を果たしたようだね。
Daughter? That man was Senna's father. I had definitely heard Senna say the name Hatano before.
せいぜい再会の喜びでも語っているがいい。そしてそこから眺めているのだな。世界が変革していく様を。
ノア2をフル稼働させれば、渋谷だけでなく、世界中のすべての人間に作用を及ぼすことが可能だ。そのネットワークはすでに構築され。
Suddenly, the voice from the speaker was cut short. And then a series of strange sounds came through them, which meant their power hadn't been cut off. Something was wrong.
今のって。
銃声。
Yeah, they're dead. After the gunshots came the raspy sound of a man breathing raggedly?
バカな。こんなはずでは。私はこれから統治者に。
A final deathly scream. Then with a dull click, the audio was cut short once more and the speaker fell silent. An oppressive silence covered the room. What had just happened?
殺されたんじゃ。
Oh yeah.
殺された？誰に？
知らないよ。
The two voices were being broadcast from somewhere else, and the audio was coming out of the speakers. So how close were they to the room we were in? At the very least, they had to be somewhere in the building. Taking that into consideration, the culprit who had killed these two had to be close by.
逃げようよ。殺人鬼がここに来るかも。
だから、殺人鬼って誰だ？なんであの二人は殺された？いや、殺されたと判断した根拠は？
落ち着け、セナ。
お前には聞いてない。
悲鳴聞いたでしょ。殺されたとしか思えないよ。
Who had killed them? Shogun? But wait, wasn't Shogun supposed to be a member of Nozomi? No, that was just an assumption on my part. There was no evidence proving that he had anything to do with them.
逃げるのは少し面倒だ。このビルは崩れかかっている。あちこちに歪みが生じている。私がこの部屋に入ってきた直後に、入り口が瓦礫で塞がれてしまった。
It was just as Hatano said. But I had this nagging feeling, one that told me that considering the way the walls and everything around us had collapsed, there was way more debris than there should have been. I had a bad feeling about this. Well, it wasn't like I had ever been to an abandoned building before, so I couldn't exactly judge the relationship between the way a room collapsed and the amount of rubble produced. The only thing I knew for sure was that we had managed to escape being buried alive, but the fact that we were still locked in hadn't changed.
ディソードで壊せばいい。
It finally occurred to me that the bizarre resonant sound from earlier had finally stopped. Maybe the earthquake had destroyed the device that had been the source. I think it was called a porter. If that was true, then Senna might be able to get us out of here. I breathed a sigh of relief and then waited to hear Senna's brilliant plan of escape. However, she didn't take out her D-sword. She simply continued to glare at Hatano-san.
あの二人と何を話していた？
昔話だ。互いに分かり合うことのできない。ね。
分かり合うことのできない？本当にそうか？今でもつながりがあるんじゃないのか？この半年、どこで何をしていた？今になってこの場所に都合よく現れたのはなぜだ？このビルのどこかで私たちをモニタしていたからじゃないのか？
私はこの半年、渋谷を徘徊していただけの死にたがりだ。天聖振興会にものぞみテクノロジーにも戻るつもりはない。
Senna gave a light click of the tongue and turned toward me.
あの二人が殺されたと思う根拠は？
それはだから。
彼らは敵が多い。
Hatano stepped in.
誰に殺されても納得できる。
So is it true that they were actually members of the Committee of 300? I'm curious about that.
お前には聞いてないと言っているだろ。
Or were they just trying to well, obviously they were trying to just become the rulers of the world regardless, so basically they were saying fuck the 300, but were they a part of them, or... I know Norase wasn't.
でもほら、悲鳴とか銃声が聞こえて。
本当にそうか？単なる演技の可能性は？そもそもスピーカーから聞こえていたあの二人の声はリアルタイムのものか？
What was she talking about?
地震対策がしっかりしている日本で、のぞみグループという日本を代表する巨大企業の本社ビルがこれほどの地震被害を受けている。それだけとんでもない地震が起きたということだ。そんな状況でなぜあの二人はこの部屋のスピーカーでベラベラと裏事情を話してくれたんだ？
Senna painstakingly enunciated her each and every word as if to make sure I knew exactly what I was claiming. Classified information? What, like Noah 2 and the third melt? Not that I knew anything about them either way.
これ見よがしに感じる。奴らは裏事情を私たちに意図的に聞かせる必要があったのかもしれない。あの二人は実在しているのか？地震が起きる前にすでに死んでいた可能性は？西条、私もお前もこのビルに乗り込んでからあの二人とは一度も会っていない。そうだな。
でもモニターで喋ってた。
モニターの中でだろ？実際に会ったわけじゃない。あんなものいくらでも細工できる。スピーカーについても言うまでもない。何か変だ。不可解だ。それに私は。
Hatano, staring at me with wide eyes, interrupted Senna.
西条、 匠君。君がそうなのか。そうか、君が。
動くな。
Senna, in response to being ignored, called out to Hatano-san in a sharp voice.
もう一度聞く。お前はなぜここにいる？
お前たちを助けに来た。いや、殺されに来たというのが本心かもしれない。
心配しなくてもすぐに殺してやる。でもその前に質問に答えろ。私たちがここにいることをどうして知っていた？
強い心の呼びかけを感じた。
ギガロマニアックスでもないお前がどうしてそれを感じることができるんだ？いや、ギガロマニアックスでさえ心の呼びかけなんていう曖昧な妄想を感知できるのはごく一部だけだ。
Someone like Kozupi, for example. Come to think of it, I wonder how she's doing. Was she caught up in the earthquake? I hope she's safe.
本当に感じたのか？最初から知っていたんじゃないのか？私たちがこの部屋におびき寄せられたことを。
冷静になれセナ。憎しみに心を支配されているぞ。
冷静になれだと？ずっと殺したいと思っていた人間を目の前にして冷静でいられるはずがないだろう。
考えすぎてはいけない。物事は陰謀論ほど複雑ではなく、もっとシンプルだ。
この場にお前が現れるのは都合が良すぎるんだ。
It is a little convenient.
最初から仕組まれたことじゃないのか？この部屋におびき出されて監禁された私たち、地震直後に現れたお前という存在、スピーカーからのコルミヨガシの陰謀論風な演説とその不可解な中断。そもそもこの部屋が望みのビルである確証もない。私たちが気絶している間に別の場所に運び込まれていたとしたら、望みのビルに内装だけ模してある部屋、地震など起きていなくて散乱している瓦礫も人為的に配置したもの。
I understand why she's being so, well, I guess overly cautious is still an understatement, but yeah, I mean, we could have just been simply fooled here. We might not actually be where we are because, well, look what happened to her mother. The more words Senna threw out, the more unsure I became on what to believe. I felt like the very foundation of knowledge I had always relied on what was collapsing. Like, it was being pulled apart piece by piece.
疑心暗鬼は己を滅ぼす。気をしっかり持て、セナ。
お前に名前を呼ばれたくはない。会話をするつもりもない。質問に答えろ。
地震は起きた。確実にだ。渋谷のあらゆる建物は崩壊しかかっている。死傷者は4桁以上だろう。
それを証明する方法を持っているのか？
Well, let's go outside and check it out.
その壁を崩してみるといい。お前の理想度で。
Senna threw out her right hand as she was shaking something off, or as if she was. Her D-sword materialized in an instant. Senna swung it down toward the wall without hesitation. The D-sword smoothly cleaved through the wall like a hot knife through butter. The wall broke down. Immediately after, a fierce, chilly wind blew through the room. The scenery from behind the destroyed wall was laid bare before us. Excuse me. And what we saw there was... yeah. Just another typical day here in Shibuya. Shibuya transformed into literal ruins of death. Just a few hours ago, it had been crowded with people. Flashy videos were playing in an insane volume from various jumbotrons, and it was overflowing with glittering decorations, things all befitting of the City of Youth. But now almost all of the iconic buildings had collapsed, and those that had survived were either leaning at a sharp incline or had violent cracks gradually eroding away at them. Not a single car remained on the road. The asphalt had caved in at multiple points, and had risen up at many others. Pitch black smoke billowed from numerous locations and disappeared into the blackened sky. That was the Shibuya that we saw from atop the skyscraper. Senna had only been jumping at shadows, and I was no better. There was no mistaking it. We were still on the 31st floor of the Nozomi building, and an earthquake had occurred. There was no telling when the building we were in would collapse. If the building were to fall, I'd have no chance of surviving. It would end with me being crushed under endless tons of rubble. Rubble? That's the word. I could be buried for all eternity, with my body never being found. I needed to get out as fast as humanly possible. Trembling violently, I surveyed the room. Huh? My eyes instinctively honed in on an object, a monitor that had fallen onto the floor.
単なる地震でここまで被害が大きくなるはずがない。ノア2か。
そうだ。サードメルト。ノア2の最終稼働実験だ。
Half of the LCD screen was broken, so nothing was displayed on it. However, the remaining half was tenaciously staying lit. I didn't think it'd be on when I looked earlier, but I was completely sure. Or I wasn't completely sure.
お前も関わっているのか？
言っただろう。私はもう半年以上前にのぞみから逃げ出した人間だよ。
のぞみだけじゃない。お前は私や母さんや妹からも逃げたんだ。
ああ、認める。
Only half listening to Senna and Hatano-san's strained arguing, I crouched down in front of the monitor. There were letters on it. Text was being displayed. Oh, interesting. What the? A chat room? They'd said my name. Why? Why had they said my name? What did they mean? Are you seeing this? The whole thing creeped me out. Who'd written it? Their handle seemed to be corrupted. I would want to say it's probably Shogun. How did they know my name? How did they know I was in this building, let alone this very room? Maybe it was Grim. I never asked him before, but what if he was actually some crazy super hacker all along? Or maybe it was Shogun like usual. Was he reading my mind again, prepping to give me my next quest? The sight of Nanami covered in blood resurfaced in my mind. Right. Nanami was being imprisoned somewhere. If this was in any way related to Nanami, she could be killed if I didn't respond to this message. I crouched down to the keyboard that had fallen down near the monitor, then let out a single groan. I had no idea whether or not the keyboard was actually connected to the monitor. All I could do was pray it would work, and so I pressed the N key. My input was reflected on the monitor. Seemed like I could use the keyboard to type in chat after all, under the temporary handle, guest. I replied with N, i.e. no, since the message hadn't clarified what I was supposed to be seeing. What was I supposed to be seeing? Since I didn't know that yet, I could answer why, i.e. yes, until I knew more. Nanami's life could be at stake, so I had to be even more careful than usual. You responded to our query, so I believe it's safe to assume you are seeing this. Another message arrived. I'm grateful we were able to establish contact with you. Ooh, interesting. We are the Committee of 300. Ooh. Wait, so it wasn't Shogun? It was the Committee of 300. I had heard that name over and over today. Those old guys that had supposedly been killed earlier, Kuramochi and Inohana, had both said that they were a part of the Committee of 300. Oh, okay, so they were.
Nishijo, どうした?
Senna peeked over my shoulder at the monitor.
なんだそれは。
わからない。僕に名指しで呼びかけてきて。
Aoi Senna, you two are being monitored by us. All three of you are Nishijo Takumi, Aoi Senna, and Hatano Issei. Alarm, both my gaze and Senna's snapped to the ceiling. Were they watching us with security cameras? There were several things in the room that looked like cameras, but all of them had been destroyed by the earthquake, and therefore weren't working. The other monitors were completely silent too.
そいつ何者だ
We are the Committee of 300, as our introduction already
300
provided.
人委員会だと証明することはできるのか西条、そう打ち込め。
Before I could even start typing, another message appeared. You needn't type, you are being monitored in real time. However, not by traditional means. There are no surveillance cameras present in that room. The devices of your world are unnecessary, at least to us. To put it simply, understand that we possess the viewpoint of God, seeing all from a higher order layer of being. There is no possible way for you to verify the system, nor even the concept. In a similar matter, we regrettably have no means by which to validate us as the Committee of 300 either. You simply will have to go by our word.
ノア2の攻撃それともギガロマニアックスからの妄想攻撃か西条、こいつが将軍の可能性は
There was no way I could figure that out with how little we'd been given. I shook my head from side to side. To her, it probably looked like I was about to cry. Senna responded with an irritated click of her tongue.
さっき胃の花と倉持を殺した殺人鬼じゃ。
いや、むしろ可能性が一番高いのはこいつが胃の花か倉持のどちらかということだろう。300人委員会を名乗ってるぐらいだしな。
Senna proceeded to point the tip of her D-sword at Hatano-san. She one-handed the gigantic, viciously sharp sword with incredible ease.
あるいは、お前の差し金による罠かもしれない。
私がこのような細工をする意味はない。
Squatting down to look at the monitor was tiring out my legs, and reading the text in the dark was equally taxing. To combat this, I shoved some debris off of a table and placed the monitor on top of it.
倉持と井の花以外の300人委員会メンバーかもしれない。何しろ300人いるのだから。
Or 298 now.
いずれにせよ、こいつが本物ならという前提がつく。自分から名乗る黒幕はドラマや映画の中だけだ。
本物か偽物かという判断は今はそれほど優先されるべきことではない。
I mean, in a way, I'm surprised that they didn't try to get a hold of Takumi in the actual, like, true route that we went through already. Or the common route, I guess. Because, yeah, I mean, the goal should be for them and for us is to stop Norisue's whatever the fuck he's doing with Noah 2. That goes against what they want. They want to be in control of the world. They want to make sure that they oversee things as they see fit. They don't want Norisue or anybody else to be out on top.
重要なのはこの自称300人委員会メンバーが井の花と倉持を殺した殺人鬼なのかそうでないかだ。
Indeed, we disposed of Inohana and Kuramochi.
犯人
Huh. So those two really were killed. They sought to betray us, you see. Of course, we have long been aware of this breach of faith. They were not disposed of because they were considered a threat.
内部抗争か。
For the odds of their plan bearing fruit were null. It is simply necessary to eliminate programs that contain errors. This was merely some debugging, essentially.
倉持たちがモニターしていた部屋からコンタクトしてきているかもしれない。
でもだったらなんでスピーカーを使わないの？
声を聞かれたくないからだろう。正体を知られたくないんだ。
僕らの知ってる誰かなの？
It could also be somebody that doesn't necessarily know Japanese either. Like, can't the Committee of 300 be like a global thing? I thought they were.
書き込んでいる男はかなり慎重だということだよ。いや、男かどうかも不明だが。
この書き込みをしているのが井の花か倉持で単なる自作自演だとしたら。
井の花と倉持の2人での仲違いだというのか？
そうかもしれないし、実は2人とも生きていて私たちを騙しているだけかもしれない。
騙す意図について推測できているのか？
We would prefer it if you didn't misunderstand. Neither Kuromochi nor Inohana were members of the Committee of 300. They were merely under the impression that they were.
何者だっ
And
て
it
言
was
うんだ。
us who implanted this
神
idea
だとでも
within
言う
them.
つもりか。
Okay, what else are they saying here? They proved convenient pawns in our guise. The same can be said for all those involved in the Committee of 300 conspiracy theory. Us true members have yet to take the stage. Even if we were to consider doing so, that much is not possible, for we do not exist in your world.
このチャット相手との議論はしない方がいいかもしれない。相手の意図が不明だ。言葉しか見えないのでは、いくらでもフェイクの情報を織り交ぜることができる。
The advice was solid, but the text on the monitor kept appearing rapidly. I couldn't get a read on the guys behind the whatever the fuck handle. They knew a terrifying amount of information about us. Calling us God would be appropriate. We are the 300, each of us with our own assigned districts.
つまり
We are those who administer your world. Our administration aims to erase errors and establish order. Right as I finished reading everything they had written up until that point, an idea suddenly popped in my head. It was something I had thought about many times before.
あなたはゲームマスターっていうこと？
Oh my god.
ゲームマスター？どういう意味だ？
演出で言えば開発者側ってこと。もっとわかりやすく言うなら中の人だよ。
ちっともわからないぞ。
Rubbing her temples, a sour look crossed her face. Kids these days. Nishijo Takumi's explanation is accurate. We are the game masters who administer the progression. Let me talk. The progression of this MMORPG. You are all players or perhaps NPCs. The theory I had delusions upon delusions about had been true all along. There was a person outside my reality controlling me, just like how I controlled Nightheart. Someone was controlling me in the same way.
だったら僕の中の人に言ってよ。キャラメイキングを今すぐやり直せって。もっと僕を操作する腕を上げろって。
I shouted that at the monitor. I felt Senna's puzzled gaze land on my back. The reason we have established contact with you is because we have a request. If you agree to cooperate, we have prepared a cheat code as compensation.
すごいぞ。チートは裏技みたいなものだよ。演数で言えばそのコードを入力するだけでレベル1だったキャラを一瞬でレベル50にできたり、あとはドロップ率 0.025% の超レアアイテムを何の苦労もせずにいきなり手に入れたりできるんだ。もしチートコードがあるなら僕はもう弱っちいキモータじゃなくなるんだ。本当の勇者になれるかも。三次元女子とも気取らずに喋られるようになる。
You can really tell how excited Takumi is here. This was the exact epic plot moment I'd been hoping for, becoming the strongest and most popular character without any actual effort. I'd be totally OP. Man, we are just knocking out these tips here. There we go. Yeah, we're just getting more of them. Holy shit, this is actually happening. The Committee of 300 are actual fucking gods. But like, actually, this is so fucking awesome sauce. Holy shit.
それがチートコードだとして本当にあると思うのか。このチャット相手は高次存在らしいが、そんな神のような存在が私たちと同じ言葉や用語を使っているのはなぜだ。これは罠だ。
Unfortunately, your conjecture proves incorrect. I assure you, our usage of familiar terms to you is fully intentional. The words we frequently make use of do not exist in your world. Your belief or lack thereof lies with you.
僕は信じる。
Choose not to believe us, and we will resort to entertaining other methods. I wanted to believe them. I didn't want to continue living in fear any longer. If I was able to get a power even stronger than Shogun's, I'd be able to live in peace. We are grateful for your cooperation, Nishijo Takumi. We would like you to eliminate an error for us.
なぜ自らの力を行使しない？
Yeah, I'm curious about that, but what you three know as Noah 2, it has the capability to severely disrupt the balance of the game, and in the worst case scenario, it may cause crashes or even wipe the game data entirely. At the present time, Noah 2 has effectively forced your world into autistic mode?
頭が痛くなってくる。
Oh my god. I'm sorry, but the Committee of Zero, if you guys actually wrote that shit, my fucking god, you guys are... I don't even know what to say. That is just lame. In other words, it accepts only minimal interference from us. The game masters cannot directly intervene in the game. In the end, we are nothing more than your administrators. In order to eliminate errors, we require your cooperation.
口から出任せにしか思えない。直接介入できないというなら、どうやって井の花と倉持を排除した？
We have other cooperators. You may think of them as
協力じゃなくて、
debuggers.
私たちを利用したいだけだろ。
However, none of them hold the power necessary to destroy Noah 2. For this, we require the cooperation of Gigalomaniacs. Call it whatever you wish. We will not deny it. However, we are confident our interests align here.
確かに。
巧妙だな。一連の書き込みを見ていると、300人委員会は実在しているとも、実在していないとも取れ。これがノア2による攻撃である可能性もある。
でも井の花と倉持がノア2を使って300人委員会を裏切ろうとしてたのは本当のことだったじゃないか。あいつら自身がそう説明してたよ。
あの時点から妄想による攻撃が始まっていたとしたら、さっきも言っただろ。モニターやスピーカーで喋っていた井の花と倉持が本物である証拠は一つもない。
さっきからセナは疑ってばかりじゃないか。
この状況で信じられるのは自分だけだ。世界は全て電気仕掛けで、電気信号に細工するだけで簡単に見ているものを捏造できる。ここから見える崩壊した渋谷の光景も、この瓦礫だらけの部屋も、300人委員会を名乗る存在からの書き込みも、今この場でこうして話している西条や。
Senna shot a glance at Hatono-san.
この男ですらも偽物かもしれないんだ。
セナ。
In your mind is but an electronic device, and your feelings electrical signals. And then the hatred you feel toward your father must also be programmed in. And this applies to human death as well. Therefore, you have no need to feel any more of the sadness you feel over the cruel deaths of your mother and younger sister. Do you deny this? Senna gritted her teeth. Her expression grew angrier and angrier.
これは妄想だ。私の心への攻撃だ。惑わされないぞ。
Well then, here is our proposition.
に?
If you succeed in destroying Noah 2, we shall revive your mother and younger sister. That is quite the cheat code.
セナ、言葉に流されるな。この書き込みが精神攻撃かもしれないと言ったのはお前自身だ。
Yeah, that is true.
でも
Yeah, don't be easily swayed like that. I mean, come on.
チートコードなら可能かも。何しろ相手は神だし。
All things that make up the world are electronic devices. You said so yourself, Aoi Senna.
本当なのか。
Now hold on. If you were to examine electronic devices at a more conceptual level, you would find that they are composed merely of digital data. Concepts such as life and death are just more fabrications. Bringing a person back from death exactly as they were, with all of their memories intact, would present no trouble at all. For us game masters, that is.
判断を誤るな。お前はそう信じたいだけだ。現実に蘇ることなどない。
うるさい。お前は黙ってろ。
心の負い目につけ込まれているぞ。相手は巧妙だ。こいつは神などではない。今確信した。ただの詐欺師だ。神は自己完結した存在でなければならない。生死の概念そのものを持ち合わせていないし、理解できない。そういう存在だ。
黙れと言ってるだろ。お前の宗教観は聞いてない。
Senna's D-sword once again found itself pointed at Hatano-san.
元はといえばお前がいけないんだ。お前が母さんを殺しさえしなければ。
その償いはするつもりだ。私を殺しても構わない。むしろ私はそれを望む。だから母さんを蘇らせようなどという虚言を信じるな。
そうやって逃げようとするのが一番許せないんだ。
Oh, for fuck's sake. Now wasn't the time for some father-daughter screaming match. Maybe I should just leave these two behind. Then I can go and take the cheat code for myself.
今決めた。お前は殺さない。ノア2を破壊して母さんが生き返ってもお前には合わせない。そして一生後悔し続けろ。
どこまでも純粋だな、セナ。感情に突き動かされながら電気仕掛けの世界を願うか。お前は矛盾している。すまない。私がお前をそうさせてしまった。
Interesting title for the chapter all of a sudden.
父親面をするな。今さらそんな顔しても私はお前を認めない。おい、私たちを見ているお前。
Senna looked toward the ceiling and shouted out.
チートコードの入手方法を教えろ。
Hatano-san said nothing more. All he did was stand there with a sad look on his face. His shoulders sagged. It seems you finally come to your senses. The cheat code has already been sent to your world. However, that being said, our ability to interfere freely has been inhibited. We were not able to place it where you are now. We must ask you to retrieve it for us. It is located underground in Shibuya Station. You will find it in a coin locker near the ticket gate of the, what is that? The Fukutoshin line. It has been placed in locker 1009. Aoi Senna, you possess an IC card for public transportation, yes?
さすが神、用意がいい。
The coin locker is the type which uses an IC card to lock, authenticate, and give payment. The required data has already been sent to Aoi Senna's card.
チートコードってどんな形をしてるの？
That is something not even we know. Whatever item present in your world that it has taken the form of is unimportant. Regardless of its form, once you obtain the code, the moment you fulfill the condition, the cheat code will activate. To fulfill the condition, you need simply to destroy the item it has taken the form of. The target, Noah 2, is located directly above the coin locker. It can be found in the planetarium near the east entrance of Shibuya Station. Upon obtaining the cheat code, you must destroy the planetarium. And with that, everything will fall into place. We pray for your success. The monitor immediately went black. With only a dull click, the committee was gone. Even though we hadn't touched a thing. I was overflowing with excitement. I met God, the person controlling me. The world turned out to be structured in a multi-layered fashion, and I was able to talk to someone on a higher layer. I could get a real-life cheat code. I could say farewell to my shitty life forever. I'd become invincible. Nobody, and I mean nobody, would be able to scare me anymore. Shogun, Yua, and Nozomi Technology would no longer be my enemies. I had won. I had won at life. I wanted to head for Shibuya Station immediately. I wanted to get my hands on that cheat code as soon as possible. But despite that, Senna continued to waste time. She kept her sword pointed directly at Hatano-san. Her head hung low.
セナ、行かないの？
Senna, hearing my call, let out a small sigh and then lowered her sword. Without so much as a glance at Hatano-san, She walked straight past me, and then she casually swung her D-sword. And with that, the rubble blocking our path was cleanly dispersed.
Iko.
She spoke in a subdued voice, one that was far removed from the rage that she had been showing only a moment prior. Man, what an episode this was. But we do need to wrap this one up. We need to stop it here. I do actually want to continue on. This shit's actually pretty interesting, all things considered. But no, we should wrap it up there. I think anything that deals with the Committee of 300 is very, very interesting, especially since this is where, well, everything started. Everything from here carries on to everything else in the Science Adventure series. So, yeah, this is a continuous thing. It's very interesting. Yeah, I'm also pissed. I don't know if that was a Committee of Zero thing or if that was actually put there, but that's not right. I'm sorry. There has been a lot of wrong in the Committee of Zero restoration or whatever the fuck patch, and it's left a bad taste in my mouth. This entire patch. It was cool to see a lot that was not here, but this whole thing with this group has left such a sour taste in my mouth. I'll definitely rant and rave about it again when we end this playthrough, but I don't know. I don't know. Okay, yep, that's it for me. I've got nothing else to say. We'll see what happens in the next episode as we continue on here. I don't know if we'll wrap up this route in the next episode, unless this route is longer than the others, but I think we can wrap this one up in the next episode if this is somewhere around the same length as the other routes. And then after that, it's Rimi's, and then we go into whatever the finale has to offer for us out of these routes. I'm excited. I hope you guys are as well. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I will see you all next time. Take it easy.